Welcome to Answers from the Universe and the Andronicus transmissions on Wolf Spirit Radio, Ever Beyond Radio, and Studio 9 Jam on YouTube. With your host, Jessica Ariel Morocco, featuring JP as the voice of Andronicus. Please visit www.readingsbyrael.com, that's ARAEL.
From the future, by way of the past, I bought my ticket for the 15th century. We started moving through a hole in history.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's a wonderful day. We're starting a little later than usual, but things like that happen, and that's okay. We're just gonna try to catch up with everything. Part of the reason is that this is, I'm here in the U.S., so for me it's 2:00, and it's earlier over in the UK or Scotland where JP is, and so, hello, JP. How are you?
Hi, Jess. I just want to let me explain, because it's my, I've been, I was talking all night with Jessica after the Max Steel show, and then I had a session, and then my girlfriend wanted to talk to me, and then maybe I got some sleep, so I didn't have enough time to get all of those in and still wake up in time for the show. So, mea culpa, many sorries. There we go. We'll do it quick. We'll have to do it quick.
So we'll probably do a shorter show today, because there's a lineup of other shows going on, and that's fine. We're just going to try to get everything in. I did want to say that we had one of the discussions that we had last night is that we're thinking of changing the day, or actually we were going to change the day to, I think, Monday, but we haven't decided exactly for sure, but we're thinking between the time of, what would it be, 4 to 6 in the U.S., Eastern Standard Time, which would then be around what time in the UK?
7 to 9, 9 till 11.
That's
which is
PM?
PM, which is, for Britain, that's prime time.
Okay.
So, it's a good time in the afternoon, it's a good time in the morning for Pacific, and it's a good time in the evening.
And this is to, to make things easier for everyone, because, everyone's working hard and trying to get all the information out, but sometimes we need some rest. We need a little time off, and so that I think this will work, and this works out for me. And I just hope the listening audience can also adapt to the new live show time. But there'll also be some reruns going on of the show, since we have we're getting up there, almost 90 shows. Or maybe already it's 90, because not all the Andronicus didn't speak in every single show. So, that there's this is an opportunity, some change. The universe is creating this change, which usually means something positive. So I'm flowing with it. I hope you can do the same, and somehow it will all work out. Some other updates that we had, Ches had some information for me, and let me just scroll up. I wanted to get her to come on the show, and maybe she will another time. Right now she's not able to today, but she is in the chat if anyone has any questions for her. And also, if people want to join the private Facebook group of Andronicus, we're having so much fun with that, and a lot of comments, and I really do love it that people are getting very, very much involved. And so, and there's no right or wrongs. If a person has a question or an opinion, we want people to voice that. And then, particularly if the question is geared toward Rhodan or Andronicus or Meetis, then I can try to get that information back to you. Today, Nicholas had some questions regarding, Rhodan, and so, Rhodan did respond regarding, what happened in Orion with his council. Now, for those of you that were listening throughout this or at least the time when we were discussing the council kind of disassembling and there was a mutinous action that happened. That is available on some of the earlier shows, but this is to answer, some of the questions now and the confusion. So the website for Andronicus transmissions is now up to date with all the shows. And let's see. Hold on to see what else is here. Ches also mentioned that there was, and that's Charlotte Bain, if someone doesn't know who she is, that someone that does graphic artwork, if you are still interested in helping and having some fun with some of the things that we're doing, please come forward and let us know if you are interested in creating some new things that we were planning on doing with Andronicus. So we don't remember who you were, and that you had mentioned at one time, and I think we were early in developing the group. So anyhow, anything else that we need to add?
Ches is Purple Street in the chat room.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So, JP, we are ready to blast off.
Yes.
And we're going to go right into the transmissions because I think they'll feel happier if we can do that.
Oh, yeah, everybody's going to feel happy once more. Okay, so let's see how Andronicus, if I can position that keyboard just there. I still haven't restored my studio to its former glory, or indeed its future glory, and I'll probably take some time out next week, dismantle the studio and assemble my big screen thing and put all the microphones in the right place. So at the moment I'm still working on a very limited studio effect situation here, but there we go. Now, where is it? There. And this. And this.
Okay. So we're going to Dryden?
Oh, Dryden first, is it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, all right. Anyway. Yeah. Excuse everybody. I just woke up.
Now you can go into the Dryden voice. Is that difficult, or would you rather go into Andronicus first?
I dread Dryden a little bit because he is quite a strain. Let me just have a little more tea. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we didn't have a tune for Dryden. I just used the standard thing, so. We are here now observing the array of mishaps that occurred within Agartha. So many wouldn't come as they were difficult to communicate with, but their termination upon the planet had come. I warned them, I gave them ample time to amend their ways. The ancient chambers refused to breathe life to them. It was simple. 2 Tuesdays ago, there went out an edict to all living creatures, all living species. It was based upon the apple principle of Eden. One must never partake of what is not theirs.
That was mine, wasn't it? maybe I like clarity, Dryden, but you had created an Eden-like scenario where other species were tempted.
They're always tempted on this planet. It is a classroom, after all, a fond place of learning. However, it is not geared towards deception, but rather choices. There are so many choices and options within and upon this planet that it can be confusing. It can even confuse one about their identity and species they are to be aligned with. I was astonished to see humans appearing as the Anshar to such a degree that their very form began to change. On one encounter I beheld a man so base that his mouth and eyes began to look like the Alpha Draconis.
I thought it was because they were actually dwelling amongst us, or that they were walk-ins.
On some occasions that is true. It is very hard for them to sustain the human veneer without much of their true appearance leaking through. Regarding the negative walk-ins, they will be pulled out from the vessel in a flash.
What happens to the body?
The soul must return to finish their course, and all the mishaps of the former gardener, that's what we call the walk-ins, the gardeners, because of the flourish of the souls. They flourish off the souls of humanity.
You mean it's like direct access to Lush?
Yes, very much so. And then they become more prominent on the planet. One can see them flaunting their abilities in various ways across the planet, shining brightly from the Lush, dancing, singing, pompous, loud, excessive, conscienceless.
Is this the Cabal? Some very famous? Not all, of course.
Not all have discarnate species. The ones who do, it's nearing the end of the road.
Tell me, Dryden, why are you telling me this now?
Because the clock is ticking, and it is time for them to return back to correct what they have done. Just by broadcasting the signal, they will know what it means. The horns have been blown in a sequence that all living things remember. What we have done what we could. Some of the most wonderful species have been attacked. The innocent upon the earth have been violated. So much must be done to amend this. The clock is now ticking.
I see the sadness in you, Dryden. I imagine you've seen much.
There is such an entanglement of contrasting species it has almost become confusing. We want it to be simple again. So many are now tainted with an essence of darkness that even the good are being swallowed up within. We can't have that anymore, man. No, no more. Flowers for you, my dear. It will help heal you. I see you have been under attack by the poisonous ones. Place them under your chin. The flowers and plants are infused with all remedies and healing properties. It was designed that way to assist with all bacteria and virus. Some plants will alter their essence to assist in healing for other issues such as the radiation problem you were concerned about. We are sending 14 elven soldiers to Japan to remediate the problem. Another collaborative will be guided us. Oh.
Guided by us.
Yeah, it's like... Another collaborative will be guided by us to safeguard other positions on the planet. They have been targeted for problems. There is more to come. I will leave you here with a peace flower. The subtle changes in the air will bring more life and energy to those above the hollow chambers of our fair realm. Farewell for now. I bid you adieu. Dryden. So, he's actually quite helpful, after all.
Yeah.
Not such a fop after.
No, I mean, I think, Meetis was getting into things, and so he had to correct him, and so it created a conflict. And from the perspective of Meetis, he was annoying and challenging him, but I think it was the other way around. There's a protocol, and I think Meetis didn't recognize that he needed to change some of the things that he was doing. So, they've resolved that. But he's from the Elven or the Hollow Earth group. And so they're watching over the planet, and I was complaining about the radiation issues.
Yes, so our show last night, it was, it was rather fearsome sounding, so, and you were concerned, obviously, so.
Yeah, so he sent 14 Elvins to go over there and to assist, the Japanese to begin working on their project. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but, hopefully, they could, direct certain people, certain scientists go over there and start shifting things. Okay, so we can go right on to Andronicus.
Andronica. So, let's just pull him up. And Suma. I'm basking in a wave of light and of colors unimaginable.
Are you creating something, Andronicus?
Yes, I'm creating a new future. Your old options were not good. In my efforts to help, I allowed you to see Ares, the true Ares, not the one they called Adrian. Adrian is good. Ares aligned himself with the Anshar and abandoned his own family. Ares aligned himself with the Anshar and abandoned his own family. He chose the darkness over the light. I knew this all along, but kept this information from you. You see, he hid in the depths of darkness and in caves as vampire-like creatures preying upon humanity. I warned him many times, but he had an insatiable desire for this environment, and I couldn't persuade him to change and remove him from this vile species. We had helped them to recover. Some of the Anshar chose to leave and return back to their former planet, no longer surviving off the loosh of humanity. Unfortunately, most of them chose to stay and hold on to the Earth as their own. What empowered them was Ares. Finally, we drew him out as I saw him speak to you. We drew him out and I saw you speak with him. This was the final breaking point for all of us. His wife threatened you. He tried to lure you into their den of iniquity. We had no other choice but to destroy him. Upon further discovery, we saw that he was posing as Mars, another point where Mars was freed from false accusations. Ares brought the Anshar and the Grey species into his army. The Grey species, the Dark Lucido, were pulled from their space, the inner portals of Mars that led out to all directions in the universe. It was destroyed finally. It was a heartache to all of us. It would be better to be attacked by many strangers, but to be betrayed by our own brother. Ares, a sadness covered us like none other could imagine. It had to be done. We could not stand to watch any further. They thought to make you captive to their iniquity. I say no more. In addition, Tectotron worked with us as he tried to integrate the future of humanity to be molded in a way that catered to his benefits and desires. Tectotron put it all to a stop and created an environment of cyborg reality so they couldn't go any further. I know you didn't understand him, but he was wary of everyone seeking to move deeper into the fold of the future. This is all stopped now. This is all stopped now. There is nothing more to say. I am holding the space here above, but in great sorrow.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Andronicus. It was hard for me to see it as well. I don't understand what happened to him. I hope we don't have to endure much more.
Worry not now. It will be well.
Yeah, so I had an encounter with Ares, and actually I saw his wife, and she said something to me which was very strange. She said, I hated you as soon as you walked through the door. And I didn't know what that meant, because I don't remember which door she was talking about, but apparently there was something there that, reminded her that Ares was not supposed to be there, and I think she was an Anshar wife. And then I saw Ares, and he showed me this cave and some of the things that were going on there, and that's when Andronicus and the others came in, and they stopped it, and then that scene just disappeared, and then they brought me to Mars, and then showed me what was going on there as well. And then they showed me that Ares, and that whole thing with Tectotron, because he was mentioning Ares, and then he was talking about Adrian, so he wasn't sure if he was dealing with the same one, and I think Ares was posing as Adrian, and then he was challenging Tectotron because he wanted to get past that point in the future to create this reality that catered to what he wanted. And so Tectotron actually held him back and made him come back into our reality again, where then they were able to, capture and deal with him. So that was kind of weird. Here again, Mars was getting, they keep on trying to set up Mars and blame him for other things. But maybe because he's a little bit hot-headed, they thought, well, it's credible to say that he was bad or did something wrong. But anyhow, so that's what that was all about. And believe it or not, Tectotron actually did something good.
Wow.
I didn't know he had a purpose.
It's like dogs, you give them a purpose and they're not naughty anymore.
Yeah. I think he created a stronghold, like this metal wall that no one could permeate. And so that way, it ensured that we have another option for the future. So then it looked like in the beginning, Andronicus was actually creating a better future for us. So I thought that was really good.
So,
That's where he is, on that pinnacle of wherever he is right now.
hang on a second. A cover for me.
Okay, so, yeah, there's just a lot going on, and here, here we go. Well, there's other people. There's Conrad trying to dial in. Anyhow, so the story with Ares at some time departed and got lured in by different species, as they all did at one time. I would say Andronicus also was engaged with some of the darker species, and Meetis, of course, had some encounters with them. And there's also an issue of there's other species in the Hollow Earth that are difficult, such as the Dracos and I don't know. There's just a multitude of species within the Hollow Earth, and of course some of them are very benevolent and have been attacked. And so that they're working on changing some of these things and bringing it all together. So anything else? JP, you back yet? No, I guess not. And it's a busy day today.
Okay, back now.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, let's do a run through of the rest of the transmissions, and then you can take a little break and
You get
bring
some
the
guests in there.
Yeah.
So, where are we? We are now going to...
Rhodan.
Rhodan. Just about... My voice is down there, yes, because I just woke up. Very Rhodan. All right. I see you've been discussing the issue of the council with Nicholas. I understand his concerns. It is difficult to know what to believe when so many are speaking, and some of the information is conflicting between others. I will have you know all the hardship I felt when I had the mutinous account I will have you all know the hardship I felt when I had the mutinous account occur amongst my council members. I decided to allow many to move on and not work against our group. No. I decided to allow many to move on and not work amongst our group. Ironically, many had moved on to create very similar councils on various locations in the galaxy. I know a few went to Andromeda to do this, and has been much more satisfied there. However, it was all founded on the basis of what I had shared with them originally. Ironically, they adapted the same rules, guidelines, and principles against which they had rebelled originally. It is a process of learning. I am grateful that the new council among me is much more attuned to the labor that needs to be noticed. It is a wonderful group that works in concert with one another. The others, my former chiefs and captains, are paving their way elsewhere, and some are even amongst you teaching and assisting humanity. The divine course was set and expanded in ways I couldn't have imagined. In retrospect, I'm rather pleased by it all. Another occurrence that happened during the mutiny of my council was a group of less savory species decided to mimic my council and deceive others by claiming they were us, and easily gained access into other civilizations. This was the worst part of the chaos in Orion. As soon as we became vulnerable, others stepped in to take advantage of our chaos and began to develop a collaborative effect amongst the negative species, and thus gained entry and access into locations that they should never have had access to. The pollution and viral content is still intertwined and not yet sorted out throughout galactic spaces. It is troubling, to say the least. Knowledge is power, my friends. Questions allow the truth to rise to the surface, and one must never allow the story to stay dormant. Seek the truth, and you will find it. I must journey forward now. I admire your solid stance to take no more deception. I too will recognize your words and thoughts as my own. A blessing to you, Honourable Journeyer Nicholas. Well done.
Okay.
So, council members. And do we have a song?
We do, for Meetis.
Oh, but again,
yes.
go and get Conrad.
You're open to singing.
croaky in the morning. Hang on.
Yes, so we have Meetis is our last transmission, and then we're going to bring in Nicholas, Conrad,
Okay.
and Viking.
Right, I've just disconnected.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. Disconnected
Okay.
the headphones. Can't hear you.
So yeah.
Right, there we go. Oh, poor Jess. She has to cover for me all day. All right.
That's fine.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. All right. So. Hello, love. You know I missed you greatly. My trip with Dryden on the train was tiresome. He's all about business. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, and when I did, he said I was frivolous. Me? Frivolous? I let him know I have a great deal of substance and purpose. I've helped with weather conditions and the condition of humanity. In fact, I've helped remedy many of the ill and unfortunate through herbal vines and herbal blends. Through healing vines and herbal blends. I've shared my own shillings with many. Don't need much. Everything is at my hand to create. The rest is superficial to me. I don't worry about much, and I suppose much of my time was spent in levity. I will admit I enjoyed the time of play a bit more than I should have. Dryden suggested that I help a bit further. He asked me to draw out the mischievous ones to trap them. You know this is not an easy task, and many have tried. However, for me, my love, nothing is impossible. I am more crafty than the best of them.
Meetis, what type of mischievous ones do you intend to gather and trap?
Ah, you will see, my innocent flower. They peek through dark corners and under doorways, the ones with the spiky fingers and lecherous thoughts. I know how to draw them out. As a matter of fact, you might be a good candidate for this. A lure that could entice the dark ones. It is the charms you carry that they would enjoy. Shall we partake of this together? Meetis, have you no other ideas? Why bring her into this? Because she's one of us. She knows what to do. Very well. Do you consent to this?
I do, Dryden. It would be my pleasure to assist in capturing those who have tormented many.
Then so shall it be. Good fortune, then. Here are a few more trinkets for your journey.
It looks like painted glass and small shards. What is this?
It will manifest in ways most useful to you. Go on now, Meetis. Off to your commitments. Don't have too much fun while you're at it. Everything I do is good. Everything I do is in good fun, Dryden. Why bother if it doesn't tickle your fancy? Yeah, I do feel amused by your charm, Meetis. Farewell, kind one. No need to worry about being harmed. You shall do well. I'm glad he approves. There's nothing worse than a disagreement with him. He's very difficult, to say the least. Oh, here is a song for my friend Primus. All double-spaced and all. Hang on. If I had a long, thin screen, it would be fine. Okay. It's a long story. Are we having horses here?
Horses, sorry. I forgot I have two computers here and I grabbed the wrong one that moment.
Thuddly.
Radio horses.
It's a racehorse. All right. This is all right. Okay. Let's see what I can do. No, I'm feeling a bit 3/4 for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 3/4. Whatever that means.
Like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Like a waltz.
Yeah. A lovely winter day begins, a sign of coming through the door. A soft shadow moves, the angels sigh. Once again, a white ship floats through the sky. Below and often floating, all this brings a new world we deserve. And light captivates the hearts of men. surly captain loses again. A mighty wind to change the force, no longer powers abuse our course. No longer powers abuse our course. Scroll up. Be now alert, the wind doth change. He stole the cape of the black night sage. I will not care what happens next when the wind does stop and he loses the test. We're now free to listen. We're now free to learn. We're rising into power, and we are the children no more. Come follow me to freedom, and I will serve no other demon. I'm free to rest my head on sweet clover and pure hay now. Smell the sweet fresh earth and follow no other course. It's time to take our power once the black night is returned. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Peace to all at last. Ended up a bit Simon and Garfunkel a bit there. There you go.
Yeah, that's good. I like Simon and Garfunkel. Came up very good.
Very good.
Okay, so I think we have a song here. I'm going to send that over to you.
Mm-hmm.
And by the Yardbirds.
Okay, well I can pick it up off YouTube here.
Here, I got it right here, so I'm just going to send it over to you. You get it? Come on. Everything's just acting a little weird.
Oh, there you go.
See it?
Over
and under.
Over, under. Right, okay. I'll give you over, under, sideways down.
Sideways down.
Oh, there we go. It's coming. Let's see, is there an advert? Yes, there's an advert. Hang on a second. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Here we are.
Okay, so we're back.
Yeah.
Thank you for holding on, and thank you, JP. Appreciate your help today. As always, you do an awesome job and doing the transmissions. So, I want to welcome in Viking, Nicholas, and Conrad today. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Doing great.
So,
I'm flabbergasted that I've been invited on again. So flabbergasted best describes it.
okay, wonderful. Hi, Viking. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Things are challenging, but I'm doing good. Thank you.
Do you have anything? We're going to start with Viking. Viking, you're going to do your show today that comes on right after my show.
We are doing the council, yes.
Yes. So tell us a little bit what's going to happen today, or what the topic of discussion is.
The topic is going to be manifesting abundance and the grand hologram with special guest council member Christopher Jacobs will be joining us and his entourage.
Okay. And of course you'll have Conrad on there as well. Is that correct?
Conrad and yourself, yes. It'll be
Yep.
it'll be the four of us. 4.5 with JP.
Okay, wonderful. Conrad, do you have anything that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, there's a lot happening with the timelines just now. We have like a 3-phase in through about August through May, starting in 3 different phases, and there's a lot to actually know about that. And the Earth's North Star is shifting actually. It's shifting towards the central sun, shifting away from using our sun as the standard. And the pole star that's above the north part of Canada now, they're saying on about the 27th or 28th of March is going to shift to eastern Turkey. Well, that's got to be a big physical change in itself. So there's a lot of things like that going on because Earth is just actually, Mother Earth is completing her shift into the 5th dimension in the next week. And at the end of that time, we'll be in a position to, as light workers, decide where our place in that 5th dimensional world is, and it's a free will choice. So whatever you're planning on manifesting, once that shift transpires, we're going to have tremendous amounts of help here on the planet in order to manifest. We've been noticing now in 4th dimension where we can make changes and manifest things that we want, like a new job or change in a relationship, a different location to live, whatever you're manifesting in your life. But as we shift into 5th dimension, our thoughts will complete the shifts more so than thought, word, and deed. So it'll be much easier, and we'll have a lot more help, and the angelics will actually be walking around visibly on the surface of the planet more and more. So I think that's a short summation.
Yeah, I think that there's some positive things ahead, even though, we have to unearth some of the really dark stuff that's going on, particularly what's happening to our planet physically. And like we discussed earlier, there was a lot of talk about radiation, and Dennis, what's Dennis's last name, JP?
Watts.
Dennis Watts, who did an amazing talk on Max and Nicole Steele show last night. And really explained to us some disheartening information, but we sort of already knew it. And so now we have to kind of get through all that muck in order to start becoming more proactive, and that's kind of the kicking and screaming of the dark ones before they leave. They know that they're unwelcome guests because they came in here the wrong way with bad intention. And so, they're just lashing out a little bit on the way out. So we need to be strong and continue keeping our eyes focused on the highest intention for our future realities, and just holding on to that. But I also want to mention too, there was a video out there for those of you that have been talking about, even our chat room, like Paul, who've been talking about a lot of ET activity in the UK. There was some footage that I put in the chat room, and it will also be put in our Facebook private group for those that want to watch it. I think it's very interesting. It was a sight that happened during broad daylight in London. So now I just wanted to bring in Nicholas. Rhodan answered. He heard that you were questioning some of the things of Orion, and that went on in our private group. The Facebook group, and for those of you that are interested in joining the private group, just I think Chaz put the link in there somewhere, and maybe she can put it in again. That's Purple Street, and but anyhow, so I just wanted to see if you had any comments on what Rhodan had to say.
Who, me?
Yes, Nicholas.
Well, basically, my understanding of Orion comes from two sources originally. One was Tolik, who's written extensively about it, and also Alex Fowler. Now, I have a certain amount of confusion that we have entities called the Orion Greys, and also a reptilian race associated with Orion, who did, if I can recall my last reading, who did some hybridization work, excuse my stammering, on some of the races in Orion, and there was a lot of implanting that went on, and basically I'm trying to extricate what we know about Rhodan, what Rhodan has said, from all these other stories you've heard about Orion. And frankly, I'm rather confused, because I also hear that Rhodan is of a higher density. Now, a person of a higher density, I would have thought, is free of all forms of conflict, because he's closer to a union with Source. And the idea of conflict is simply not part of their consciousness. So basically, I'm trying to put all this together.
Yes. And I think what happened was, he's actually on multi-levels. So, in order to connect to us, he has to be in a level that's closer to us. And so this council was overseeing the planet, but was not, apparently they got to a point where they had freedom of choice and chose to leave. And then at this point right now, those that are working with him are more in harmony and in agreement. And he's allowed the other ones to take their journey and see what it's like to kind of be in this experience of being in councils, because what he says, they actually went to other councils, and then one of them was an Andromeda council, which I believe happened much later. But I think he liked that you were asking this question and challenging the information, because that's how people will better understand, and it's not good for people to be in the background just trying to figure it out and feeling like they don't know, they don't have clarity on it, so then they can't move forward with the information and understanding of it. During the point of where the mutiny occurred, of course, on any level, I mean, you talk about, say, for example, and just using this as an example, supposedly the heavens were a very high place, but there was a mutiny there, and the angels, a portion of the angels rebelled. So here's another example of how something like that can happen. And so, I don't fully understand because I'm not there, but I do know that sometimes certain energies can somehow sneak in and integrate even the most sacred of spaces and cause problems, which is something that Dryden was mentioning, is that the species that are there in the hollow earth were actually somehow intertangling with humanity in a way that he was even feeling that the Elvins, or whatever species that you would identify with, the Tuatha or the Elvins, or the sacred ones that were here before humanity was, they pretty much knew what humanity was comprised of, and then he started seeing these other species really trying to integrate and entangle with humanity. So it became even confusing that humanity was starting to almost merge with these other species, and so he says this has to stop. Yes.
Can I ask what a density level, a dimensional level, this mutiny in the council occurred? Can you answer that question? Can Rhodan answer that question?
I believe it. They said that they're in the 12th, and I know that you had a question about that as well. But they said that's where they were. It's like they stepped down in the stairs to the 12th and spoke to us from there. So I could go deeper and ask more questions regarding that. To answer your question.
Not really, no. My understanding, and of course I've no consciousness of anything above the third. I've had one or two very, very deep experiences in the past, as I've explained to you. But my normal consciousness is third density. Above fifth density, we're talking about unity consciousness, sixth density onwards, according to my information. So therefore, if you have unity consciousness, which includes a telepathic unity between all the people of a particular racial group, how, therefore, can you have conflict?
But there is conflict, because even the higher density beings are in conflict with one another. And it's very, very hard to explain, but there's battles going on as we speak between different species that are supposedly of the upper levels. So, I mean, I think it is a bit of an illusion to think that they're in such a point of awareness that they're not completely affected by whatever else is going on. As long as they're being attacked or invaded in some way, that it creates a conflict. And so there still has not been a point of balance on multi-levels and dimensions. And I can only say, like I said, I don't have all of the answers. The only thing I can do is ask, just as you're asking. And from what I have seen in visions, and I do know that in the upper levels there are conflicts. That's why, as it is above, so it is below. Why are we in conflicts? We don't even know. Some of the battles that we're fighting happened from species that came here on the planet a long time ago, and we're just continuing it. You know, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Israel, all of this stuff. These are ancient battles that preceded our time.
I suggest that the conflicts we have on this planet, and quite excuse me, probably throughout the 3D universe, these conflicts are a manifestation of forces that are acting out in higher dimensions.
Yes. Viking, do you have any insight on this?
The only thing that I could add to this is that if you're transversing the galaxies in any kind of a transport, starship, or physical vessel, then you're not going to be the density of what Nicholas is referring to. I think Nicholas is referring more to, excuse me if I'm misunderstanding you, Nicholas, but my understanding is that to get to ascension or ascended beings where you have a collective consciousness of unified awareness, you're not in a space vessel. You're actually, working with quantum densities where you're manifesting based on the vibration around the universe. I mean, if you focus on any point in the universe and can match that frequency or density, you're there. So anybody that's or any race that's in a spaceship or any kind of a transport or working with any kind of technologies that require assistance, and then you're going to be getting into territory, philosophy, ego, right and wrong. These councils are bickering based on their own philosophies, based on their cultures, based on their point of view, which then they could telecommunicate. But to get to the ascended mastery, I think you're talking more 17th and up, and that's just like you would talk about the Buddha, or Christ consciousness. I don't think these guys are riding around the spaceships. I think they're literally above it all, watching and trying to assist as best as they can, but knowing that we have to work it out. We're in the sandbox, 3D all the way up to 7D, and I think the Orion Council is hitting in and around 6 and 7D. They're definitely not 12D. They're too base for that kind of etheric conscious awareness. So that's just kind of my understanding.
I'll tell you what might be happening here. if you have a consciousness such as Rhodan, and he's very high, if his implicit consciousness, his shall we say, his unity consciousness is of, let's say, the 12th dimension, and yet he operates on the lower dimensions as well. To operate on those lower dimensions, he has to come into convergence. My words are going. He has to come into contact with the forces of those dimensions, and he has to deal with them. Therefore, he is going to be part of any conflict which is going on in those dimensions by virtue of the fact that a part of him has descended into those dimensions. Does that make any sense?
It absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
If he is actually manifesting in a lower density, he will be experiencing everything that we are experiencing through our contrast.
He's got to deal with those issues, hasn't he? But by virtue of the fact that he's entered into those dimensions.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how I perceive it. And it's very hard to just explain it. You really have to kind of think through the whole process. But maybe if all of these higher beings were very lofty and they stayed very high and didn't interface with the lower dimensions, maybe we would be stuck. I've kind of contemplated, what would happen if they didn't come down. But when they do come down, they're not accustomed to having to deal with some of the stuff that we deal with because they're in usually a higher frequency. So it becomes a really unusual dynamic.
One of the problems here, and I thought it just come to me, unless you come into the lower dimensions and deal with the issues there, nothing damn well gets done, does it?
Right.
Think about it.
Well, what Christ went through,
if you're on a ladder, a 12-foot ladder, at the top, and you're comfortable, and you've got a cup of tea and a bun, and you're happy and everything, you can stay there as long as you want, but nothing gets done until you come down off that ladder onto the ground, and that's where the action is. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
exactly.
Rhodan, this is it. I mean, it's fine, Rhodan saying, I am happy, I'm in 12th, or God knows what dimension. But I'm doing nothing. All the action is down below me. That's what
Absolutely.
I want. This is what Meetis has been on to, and Andronicus. They
Right.
wanted to be part of it, and yet be slightly to one side of it, if you follow me.
But you notice in the stories, they get sideswiped. They're strolling around and then suddenly someone knocks them on the head.
Yes.
And they're, like they're not accustomed to it. It throws them off. And so then they have to figure a way around it. I mean, think about, like I said, what happened to Christ when he came here. Now, we don't know how true all of the stories were about what Christ suffered and what he went through. But think about a higher density being coming down here and then speaking the truth, and look at the response. I mean, this response is just everything opposite of what one would think. But it's something for us to consider, how these things roll out when a higher being goes down the ladder of density and has to interact with species that are different. Now, think about, I've communicated with many different species, but I'll tell you what, I really can't communicate with an Alpha Draconian. I just can't. And it's just very brutish and there's really no communication. It's sort of like, on a whole different level. And so, I know, from my own experience, I know that it's I cannot imagine, to be in such a lofty, amazing place and then coming down, it would have to be a shock or a trauma to some degree.
This is why many of us are. That's what
yeah. I want to hear what Conrad has to say.
Yeah.
Well, I'm following along, but I don't have anything to input right now. It's just, there's just a lot of people, a lot of ET groups, and a lot of angelics that are just putting a tremendous amount of positive energy into our timeline right now to keep us on that positive track, because we're at a point now if they back off, everything goes sideways because there's so much dissension. We're in this giant clearing right now through, I think, the end of the year probably, of, all these groups, all these people. But that's actually a very positive cleansing that we have to go through in order to bring everything out where it's up on the top of the table and everybody can see what it is. So I think that's the main thrust of the energy. And, of course, the light workers and the ETs are all bringing this forward together. And then as the Earth shifts to fifth dimension, we're all of a sudden in a new place looking at a new Earth with different energies and Mother, Father, God on the surface of the Earth walking around, from what I'm hearing from the last 2 days. So it's I'm trying to wrap my mind around that right now, because that's a tremendous change within a few weeks or months.
I think that's it's a positive outlook, Conrad, because in the end that's probably where everything's going to be. Everything's going to balance out. And right now, the integration of the lighter ones coming down and interacting is shaking things up a bit, and holding certain ones accountable, and also giving us the opportunity to see a distinct contrast, a very distinct contrast with clarity, so we can make our decisions, and so that we can also remember our sovereignty. Because with the darkness being involved, we were starting to forget and buy into the agreement that we were no longer sovereign on the earth, and also the fear of that none of these things will ever work, like Nasara and some of the changes, and that we can't remedy some of the ailing issues of the planet. So that's not the truth. We have to hold on to the truth, even though it's hard to see it. Anyone else want to comment?
I'm just tripping out here. Hypothetically, what if timelines were congruent with the evolution of our DNA? Basically, our DNA expressing itself as a quantum shift. So we all have individual timelines based on our genetic markers, which are predicating our reality. Now, as we start to refine ourselves, our DNA starts to refine ourselves, and we start to merge into a commonality of DNA, which becomes this conscious awareness that we're talking about, this collective consciousness, because our DNA is literally drafting itself into a common DNA strand of expression. Quantum physics. Quantum density means you're shifting timelines or shifting spectral reality. What if the fact that we are shifting into this higher perspective is causing a future timeline jump of these higher aspects of conscious awareness, such as Rhodan? I mean, they're up there, as you say, on top of this ladder. But let's say that they're in a timeline in the future, past, or present. But the fact that we are shifting our density and our conscious awareness through our, again, it's a DNA spectral analysis that we are coming together as one, is literally altering their perception on, and this is how we start to get into time travel and time loops and these quantum densities that are starting to link up as one. I don't know, I'm just tripping here, but that just came to me.
I could say a couple of things here. Firstly, seeming to diverge a little bit, the Montauk on the Project Rainbow, the Philadelphia experiments, apparently created a lot of bubbles in time and a lot of time loops, and these are being rejoined, dissolved and rejoined. This is my understanding. Secondly, we also have the idea that the correct me if I'm wrong, the third strand of our DNA is coming into operation, which is going to affect our timeline, obviously. I totally agree with Viking. There's got to be a convergence, but that convergence will not be universal. It will be amongst those whose frequencies match up with each other. So you'll not only have a convergence of timelines, you'll have a convergence of people's frequencies matching up with each other. Hence this group here, for instance, which seems to be along these lines.
You know what? I agree with you. I agree with all of this. I believe that we are making the change. Remember, this is our reality, and we were told that we had to obey, that we had to submit, that we had to, all of these other things, and we forgot that we were connected to the divine, and we forgot that this was our origin. This is our space, and so as we're remembering. Incrementally and as a collective as we're expanding in this awareness and awakening, we are shifting and changing things. It's happening quantumly. And then it is expanding and is shifting. And this is what Andronicus said earlier, is that you are the ones that you can hold on to the highest potential for humanity. You're the ones creating this higher potential for humanity. And as you continue to awaken, and it becomes exponential, as we, are speaking this forward and others are starting to remember and align, because remember, we have been bombarded with technological media, an influx of conformity data that we are now disengaging from, and frees up our soul to remember where to fully realign, and that is with the creator being of the highest source. And embracing that and remembering going back to that. This is what makes the change. It's not just some magical being showing up and waving a wand. I mean, this is, we are the ones that are doing it. We're doing it quantumly, and we have to cut off from the untruths of submission and a return back to the sovereignty. And once we do that, everything else begins to change.
Have any of you, I don't suppose you have, I have posted the link in the other group, the discussions group. I don't suppose you've seen the latest Project Ascension video by mainly Patty Rossard.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes, I have. It's very good, yes.
Right. So she's saying that these fires which have been seen on the weather map are domes which have been taken out. Now, she also, it's mentioned in another video that they're trying, she says in another video, her group are trying to take out these looking glasses around the planet. Because if the looking glasses are activated later this September, they each will have a mirroring effect upon each other, which will have a devastating effect on the planet. Now Dan Burish taught something similar many years ago on Project Camelot, which is corroboration of what Patty has been saying. Now to bring this to a head, I'm suggesting that in the next 6 months, all of this is converging, and this group is part of it as well. It's converging on inner levels, and it's converging on outer levels at the same time.
Yes. Because there are light workers who have been brought into this reality at this time to make change, to assist on certain levels. There's multi-levels of things happening at the same time, and there are those that have devoted their lives to provide information and to reveal what is going on in the planet and helping us to get some of the data and true news of what's going on. And some of them, like Patty and Karen and Project Ascension, they actually have data there that I thought was quite interesting. They have satellite footage. There's just a lot of information out there right now for people. And I'm grateful. Some of them are putting themselves on the line to create a sense of awareness and knowledge. And we support that. We support everyone that's working for the planet. We can't be segmented, and this one likes that one likes this one, and it has to be that we're all doing our part. And that's part of bringing in the unity consciousness here, is that we all have to do our part and we have to work together. It's not going to happen if we are excluding certain groups of people that are not in agreement with us 100%. I mean, that's why I welcome when people disagree, because that's their choice to disagree. I'm not into the whole ego thing of having to be right all the time, and I don't think anyone should, because we can all learn from the questions in the process. But there are people that are multiple people that are devoting their time and their life to make sure that these things don't happen on the planet, and they're not scare tactics. That a lot of it's reality. Sometimes the governments are doing things that they've been told or instructed by, from ET influences that are negatives, and they don't even realize what they're doing. Sometimes we're playing with fire, like CERN, and not realizing how catastrophic that could be. So there's, just even the basic things with working with radiation and so some of these different things where you think, well, we're using it to bring in energy, to enhance us, but then there's a negative side to it. A lot of these things we're learning from. We just need to correct everything and work together as a group, but keep informed. As long as we have the airways are free and open, we can keep on sharing this information. We have approximately 5 minutes or so before the end of the show. Does anyone have quick thoughts, Viking?
Yeah, just tagging on to the fact that we are co-creators here. I'm really seeing one of the elements of co-creating is keeping your visions alive. In other words, you can be locked in and entangled. You can think that you really can't make a difference, but just the fact that you employ your free will and envision a concept of your life in a higher state of awareness, make it a fantasy. What is your best outcome for you personally, and start focusing in that direction. This is how you become a co-creator. This is how you create destiny and create reality, because you have everybody that's starting to look forward into what they can manifest as their best potential outcome on this planet, serving humanity. It will manifest. And as a co-creator, we then join and create a timeline that will manifest this destiny. And we'll be talking about this in the next 2 hours. But this is precisely what I am trying to convey, is that you can make a difference just by being free with your fantasy and your passions of life.
Nicholas, any last thoughts?
Lots of thoughts, yeah, but the thought comes to me that what is happening around us has its counterpart in higher dimensions, and vice versa. I think there's an interplay between forces at one level and forces at this level, and there's it's bloody late. The words have gone. Basically, you've got an interplay, an interdependence of forces between the various levels, the astral level, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth dimension, and this dimension. And I think there's a unity somewhere in all of this.
Very good. Yes. And thank you for, bringing to light some of the questions that I'm sure other people have had as well. Is a lot of people providing information, but they don't always, they seemingly disagree, but I think if we really looked at all perspectives, we would find that we're probably talking about the same thing. Absolutely. So let's just always keep open-minded. Conrad, we got one or 2 minutes left. Any last thoughts?
Yeah. As it happens, I'm working with 2 different groups right now, like public service type things, and one I'm a vice president this time for 2 years, and the other one I'm kind of like the CEO and director for one I started up 10 years ago, and it's now completed its 10-year cycle. It's time to be rehydrated with money. So we're doing these conferences with people. There's a lot of new people in government now, especially in the American administration here with Trump and all those appointees. And the one thing they're relating, the feedback, is they're in a state of shock of what they can't do. They don't know why it is they're not allowed to do. But they do a countdown for, again, one of the military generals was saying that. They do a countdown where the missile is disconnected, but they go through the exercise. It doesn't count down. It goes to 3, and it stops, and it resets. So it's an unsuccessful test. So that's obviously off-world control or extraterrestrial control. But these new people are just seeing this, which gives me a feeling of a sense of security that these things are locked down and no nation on earth can fire them. So I thought I'd share that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I believe they're speaking to us, aren't they? So this is what the Andronicus transmissions are. When I thought that these messages were just for me, I didn't do anything with them. And once I realized they were for everyone, I approached JP and we started presenting them. We're probably in about 83, possibly it's getting close to 93 2-hour shows of the Andronicus transmissions. There's a lot of stories and information, but they're not just fantasy stories. These are the exact stories that they shared with me. They've provided imagery and also an explanation. We're learning as we go. The story keeps on going, and we're gathering more information, and hopefully we're making a more tight-knit community and more expansive. Thank you so very much for allowing us to be here today, and thank you for joining us in the chat room. We love you, and listen in. We'll be on the next 2 hours on the Interstellar Galactic Council with Viking. Thank you, Nicholas, Conrad, Viking, JP.
From the future, by way of the past. I bought my ticket for the 15th century. We started moving through a hole in